Hello and welcome back. Before I begin, I'd like to give a big thank you to my newest subscribers. So thank you to Zachary Pedraza, 22 Tessie Bear, Cajita de Hoyas, Moo Girl, Opal Rumi, Jaisana, 4 Nodes, $13 Mike, and Lola Loves Lattes. Thank you all so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. And now, on with the haul. As usual, this is going to be a haul from the Book Thing of Baltimore, a wonderful nonprofit that gives out free books every weekend and also accepts donations of unwanted books. And you can learn more about them at www.bookthing.org. Now this is kind of a red letter day for me because, I'm always talking about I tried so hard to be abstemious and it failed and, I'm et cetera, et cetera. And I really do kind of struggle with this because I want to get good books and I'm a very curious person, so a lot of things just catch my eye and I want to read them all, but I can't read them all and I don't have enough space for all of them, and I get all this pressure from my from work. I'm always trying to read a couple months ahead, advance copies, and then I allow myself 2 days a week to just read whatever I want, which I usually try to read classics, but sometimes I just read other things that are not coming out in the next month or so. But anyway, so there's a lot of pressure on my time, and it's kind of stressful to be getting all these books and not have room for them, not have time to read them. So this time, I actually managed to get only 10 books, which for me is a tiny, tiny number for a Book Thing haul. So I will gladly show you the books I got. And it's interesting because these are 10 just kind of strange books. You would think a lot of them would be just books I'd been waiting for forever, and I was so excited to get these 10 books, but a lot of them are just, that was interesting. So anyway, onward. First up, I got Swan Song by T.J. Binion. This appears from the back matter to be more or less a sort of Cold War spy thriller, but it's published by Tor, which is a big spec fic or speculative fiction publisher. So I suspect this is going to have some kind of a science fiction or fantasy element to it, which is pretty interesting because I just read a really neat debut novel by Peter Simmons called Wolfhound Century, which takes place in an alternate Stalinist Russia and it's almost like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, except with fallen angels instead of androids, and it takes place in an alternate Stalinist Russia. So anyway, but I thought that was a really interesting melding of two genres, and this looks similar and was published before that in 1982. So we shall see. And then this is something I had never heard of before, but it's a novel called Pirate Jenny by April Bernard. And I just pulled it off the shelf because Pirate Jenny is a great song from Bertolt Brecht's The Threepenny Opera, which was made into a phenomenal film of the same name by G.W. Pabst, although the film and the actual opera are pretty different. But so I pulled it off the shelf and it looked pretty interesting. It's about a young working class woman who decides she's had enough and is going to become a con artist and make her fortune. And then I got Dogs of God by Pinckney Benedict. Pinckney Benedict is one of those names I've heard sort of bandied about, but I've never read anything of his and haven't felt terribly compelled to before. But this is one of these Plume fiction books, and you all know, if you've seen enough of my videos, how fond I am of Plume books. The older Plume, or not old, but the ones from maybe the 80s through the mid-90s. Afterwards, the imprint just kind of went downhill, and now it's really more very, very light reading, if I'm being charitable. But anyway, this is sort of a West Virginia noir novel, and I figured I will take a look. And then I got Schrodinger's Cat by Robert Anton Wilson, who is a famous science fiction writer, and I've never read any of his stuff. He's supposed to be pretty irreverent. He also wrote the Illuminatus trilogy, and I figure I would give him a go. And then I got Without End, New and Selected Poems by Adam Zagajewski, which is a big get. It's kind of rare to find really good contemporary poetry in the poetry section. I think they get pretty picked over quickly. But actually the volunteer was just putting it out, and I just went, "Excuse me," and swerved around and grabbed it. Then I got The Western Lands, a novel by William S. Burroughs. I think I've talked about Burroughs before, about at one point I borrowed Naked Lunch from somebody and tried to read it and just didn't even really get anywhere with it. And then I read The Soft Machine and was kind of ho-hum. And then I was writing a paper for college about countercultural literature, and I was using The Soft Machine as kind of the beginning point, and then I think my end point was Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail in 1972, and then I was examining a lot of other books that were written in between. I remember I did Brautigan's In Watermelon Sugar, and Reich's The Greeting of America, and I don't remember what the other ones were. But anyway, so when I reread The Soft Machine for that paper, I started to notice a lot of things that I hadn't noticed before, and I wound up finding it really interesting and rather poignant. So I'm eager to try a little more of Burroughs' work with a more open mind. And then this was an interesting little find. This is The Tales of Olga da Polga by Michael Bond. Michael Bond is probably best known for his Paddington Bear books, which were some of my absolute favorites when I was a kid, and I still have all of them. I love Paddington. He's just so funny, and the stories are very sweet, but also with, a little bit of sauciness to them, especially with Mr. Curry, the ill-tempered neighbor. And I tried reading some of Michael Bond's adult series, which I believe was a mystery series. It was, there was a character named Pamplemousse, and I just couldn't get into those at all, so I hope this little children's book is better. And if not, it's only, let's see. Oh wow, it's 127 pages, but there's large type and pictures, so I won't have wasted too much time if it winds up not being too good. And then I got Apocalypse by D.H. Lawrence. This is one of his, I believe, later novels, and I'm just a big D.H. Lawrence fan, would like to read anything he writes. And then I got Utopia in Power, The History of the Soviet Union from 1917 to the Present, which, because it uses the words Soviet Union and present in the title, clearly it's a bit dated, but the authors are Mikhail Heller and Alexandra M. Nekrich, and they were both apparently born and raised in the USSR and then came to the US, so they have an insider's perspective, and just sounded quite interesting. And let's see, when was this written? Oh, and it's translated from the Russian, so these people are like serious. Okay, it was written in 1982 and translated in 1986, so still pretty interesting. And actually it was funny, I was browsing in the travel literature section, and there was this kind of, it's funny because I'm kind of awful when I'm at the book thing myself, and I'm sure I exhibit all kinds of annoying behavior, but I always pick in my mind at all the other denizens, and so there was this couple, and one of them said to the other, "Oh, Russia is very interesting," and to me I was like, all right, you condescending brat, I'm sure the Russians are so pleased that you're interested in them, but there I am saying, this looks interesting. So, all right, Hypocrisy. My name is Rebecca. And last but not least, or maybe least, I'm actually not sure, but I got Stephen Erickson's Gardens of the Moon, which is the first volume in his Malazan Book of the Fallen series. This series is rumored to be even better than George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire. Erickson, and this is interesting, Stephen Erickson is not to be confused with Steve Erickson, whose name is spelled with a CK, and who writes, he doesn't really write hard or pure fantasy or science fiction. He writes more of what I guess you could call slipstream, which is literary fiction with some elements of speculative fiction in there. But anyway, so don't confuse those two. But I tried, once upon a time I had this before, And I tried reading it and just wasn't really into it. And so I took it back to the book thing, and then pretty shortly thereafter I started to feel really bad about not giving it more of a try, especially because I've become the de facto speculative fiction person at the bookstore where I work. I manage the section, and I ordered in a bunch of the series, and I just feel bad that, I don't know anything about them, and they're taking up a large section of shelf space. So I'm going to give this another try, and apparently one of the things that lends depth to the world is that Erikson is a trained anthropologist, so he has more expertise in world building, that kind of thing. So I will give it another try, and we shall see. And if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me for my next video.